Hi, I'm Viggo Mortensen, and I'm in the Criterion closet.
Viggo Mortensen recently went into the Criterion closet and he picked out 12 movies that he likes and that he thinks we should watch. And guess what? They are all Westerns. Yes, all 12 of them. But that didn't matter to me. I watched them all and I'm about to rank them for you. So if you have a hankering to watch a Western, watch the rest of this video. You might learn something, but probably not.
Actually, I'm going to start with this one. It was a real classic. Stagecoach.
Stagecoach was directed by John Ford, and it is a classic Western that follows a diverse group of people traveling through dangerous Apache territory in a stagecoach bound for Lordsburg. Among the travelers are a disgraced prostitute, an alcoholic doctor, a pregnant wife on her way to meet her husband, a southern gambler, and a timid whiskey salesman named Mr. Peacock. Along the way, they pick up the Ringo Kid, played by John Wayne, a notorious outlaw who has escaped from prison to seek revenge on those who killed his family. This is a historic film not only for the genre of Westerns, but for movies as a whole. It marked the beginning of director John Ford's collaborations with the now famous Monument Valley, where he was able to achieve iconic shots like these. This film also marked the beginning of John Wayne's rise to stardom, because before this, he was considered a B-list actor. In fact, the director John Ford had to fight to get him on this movie because the producers didn't want him. This film was released in March of 1939, which is literally before World War II started later that year. It went on to win 2 Academy Awards, but does it hold up? And the simple answer is yes, I think this film holds up for 3 reasons. Number 1, the plot is simple but not on the nose. It's literally just a stagecoach riding from one location to the next, but the way they create tension and the events that unfold and the decisions by the characters in that stagecoach make for a very exciting, wild ride. Number 2, its characters are diverse and interesting. This film is basically Guardians of the Galaxy in the 1930s. In a time period where the same kind of cowboy, western, outlaw characters were recycled year after year, this film stands out, as every character is unique and has their own quirks and desires that may or may not conflict with everyone else's desires, leading to some very well-written interactions. Number 3, its cinematography is impressive by today's standards, especially in the action scene towards the end of the film. Its combination of on-location photography and in-studio projection make this one of the best action scenes ever put to film. This is a classic film that every film buff should watch, but I do think it lacks a little bit of depth for me. I still think it's great, but for this video, I rank it number 5. And I would rewatch it 10 times.
Red River.
Red River came out in 1948 and it was directed by Howard Hawks. It is a classic Western, and again, that's what most of the movies are on this list, classic Westerns, that follows the story of Thomas Dunson, played by John Wayne, who is a determined and hard-edged cattleman, and his adopted son Matthew Garth, played by Montgomery Clift. After the Civil War, Dunson builds a massive cattle empire in Texas. However, he soon faces financial ruin due to a lack of markets for his cattle. So Dunson decides to take all of his cattle, which is like 10,000 cattle, and lead them on a perilous cattle drive north to Missouri. And the one thing I find interesting about this film is that John Wayne's character leading his cattle drive to Missouri, he kind of turns into a bad guy. But right from the get-go, when the movie starts, you can tell something's not quite right with him because he literally just leaves the girl he's with to die. Instead of going back to help her when their caravan gets attacked, he just kind of pushes on forward to go acquire land for all the cattle that he is going to raise on that land. And when he gets to the land, he finds out that people already own that land, and so he just shoots them and takes the land. It's actually pretty bad. And this leads me to repeating theme number 1. You see, after watching 12 Westerns in a row, I started to notice a few repeating themes, because these are all basically the same movie. They're not basically the same movie, but, you know, they're very similar in a lot of regards. And repeating theme number 1 that I saw in a lot of movies on this list is that the main protagonist is actually kind of a bad guy. A lot of these hardened Western cowboys just have a lot of experience with killing people. Most of them have changed their ways by the time the movie starts, but that doesn't mean that they didn't kill people in the past. And I think in a lot of these movies that creates a character with a lot of layers. It's not one who is easily understood or liked. And I think it works wonderfully in this film particularly because I think this film at its core is about rugged individualism gone mad. Because it is clear that John Wayne's character is so obsessed with money and getting rich and having power that he is willing to do whatever it takes, include killing people, include killing his own adopted son, which he tries to do. And it's this tension between the selfish father and more honorable son that creates some of the best themes on this list. Themes of workers' rights and unionization, themes of toxic versus non-toxic masculinity, and themes of father and son relationships. I think this is a wonderful film. I love the themes in it, and I think it's very deep and rewatchable. I do think the messaging falls a little flat at the end, though, because John Wayne's character and his son just, like, make up after they fight, and everything is back to normal, which is kind of crazy since John Wayne murdered a bunch of people in this film. And that brings me to recurring theme number 2. Another thing that I saw in a lot of these westerns is moral ambiguity when it comes to forgiving people who have done wrong. Not wrong in like lied or stole, but literally done wrong and like murdered an innocent person. A lot of these characters don't get their comeuppance. It seems like they are easily forgiven just because they are family, which I find a little morally off kilter. The best sequence in this film is the Stampede sequence, which has a bunch of cool shots, and the fact that they actually used all those real cows boggles my mind. And I can't imagine the smell on set. But I do think this is one of the best westerns I've ever seen, honestly, and for this list, I rank it number 2, and I would rewatch it 15 times.
40 Guns.
40 Guns follows a reformed gunslinger turned lawman called Griff Bonnell. Again, there's the theme of the reformed murderer, the reformed outlaw. And it follows his 2 brothers as they arrive in a small Arizona town ruled by the powerful rancher Jessica Drummond, played by Barbara Stanwyck. Jessica is literally the boss of 40 hired gunmen, which is kind of badass. Tension builds when one of the brothers is drawn into a deadly conflict with one of Jessica's men, escalating tensions in the town. The film builds towards a violent and tragic climax as Griff and Jessica must confront their opposing loyalties and personal desires in a lawless world. The first thing that I noticed about this film was its dynamic cinematography. I think on this list, this is one of the films that has the best cinematography. In the beginning scene, the use of dolly and crane shots give energy to the scene that I hadn't seen in any other films on this list. This style of cinema continues throughout the film, including the next scene where there is a moving long take and a very well edited face-off scene. Overall, the plot and everything in this film is pretty good. I think there's a lot to love about this film, especially Barbara Stanwyck's character, Jessica Drummond. Barbara Stanwyck in this role is very powerful. It's a very great role for her. It is the shining example of feminism that they needed in this time, until it wasn't. And this leads me to recurring theme number 3, half-baked feminism. You see, this movie and the other movie on this list that Barbara Stanwyck plays a woman in a leadership role in, these movies seem to be feminist on the surface because they start out with Barbara Stanwyck's character being rough, being rowdy, being a leader, and it seems to imply that women can be those things. It seems to imply that there's nothing wrong with it. Women can shoot people just like men can. But the thing is, these movies, as they progress, they kind of lose that because at the end of the films, they always end up as someone's wife. It's almost like they're saying women can be leaders, but they can't be leaders forever. In fact, the song that these people in the bath sing at the beginning of the film kind of emphasizes that, because it basically says, yes, she's a tough woman, she has guns and she leads people, but she's just a woman after all. However, I do believe that this movie was probably pretty revolutionary in the time it came out in these regards, so I want to give credit where credit's due. And I do like this film a lot. Overall on this list, I rank it number 6, and I would rewatch it 8 times.
The Gunfighter.
The Gunfighter from 1950 was directed by Henry King, centered around Jimmy Ringo, who is played by Gregory Peck, a notorious and aging gunslinger. As the fastest draw in the West, Ringo is constantly challenged by young gunmen, eager to make a name for themselves by killing him. Tired of the violence and his notorious reputation, Ringo longs to leave his past behind and settle down with his estranged wife, Peggy. Ringo arrives in the small town where his wife and young son are, hoping for a quiet reunion with his family. However, he quickly becomes the subject of gossip and attention, and tensions rise as local hotheads try to provoke him. The plot of the film may be the most simple on this list, but its themes are some of the strongest in my opinion. Plot-wise, it's a lot like High Noon, where the main character is stuck in town knowing that his enemy is going to be arriving at a specific time, and the tension is built through that ever-approaching impending doom. But I do think High Noon was better directed. It builds tension better in the editing and the cinematography. Themes-wise, this movie is similar to The Shootist in the way that it's about a retired gunman who is reconciling with his past and asking himself the question, was it worth it? Although, again, I think The Shootist was better directed. Overall, I think this film is a great character study that's elevated by the performance of Gregory Peck, but I do think this film is hampered by an anticlimactic ending. Overall, it's a good movie, and I would rank it number 8 on this list, and I would rewatch it 5 times.
The Furies. This is another great Barbara Stanwyck role.
The Furies, no, not the Furries. The Furies was directed by Anthony Mann in 1950, and it's set in the rugged landscape of New Mexico. The film centers on Vance Jeffords, who's played again by Barbara Stanwyck, a strong-willed woman who returns to her father's vast cattle empire known as the Furies. Her father, T.C. Jeffords, is a powerful and tyrannical rancher who holds sway over both the land and the people in it. This film is basically about Barbara Stanwyck's character fighting to get in the position of taking over her dad's ranch after he passes away, but he finds a new wife, and so she is now the one who's going to take over the ranch after he passes away. Plot-wise, it is very interesting and probably the most complex plot in terms of this list. However, this film was a wild mix of feminism and misogyny. Again, Barbara Stanwyck plays a role that sees her taking a leadership position at her father's ranch, but her relationship with her father is like borderline creepy. She literally gets jealous later in the film when her father brings a lady in and asks her to rub his back instead of his daughter. Whoever wrote this movie has a very odd, to say the least, view of relationships between men and women. This carries over to the relationship between Barbara Stanwyck's character and her love interest as well, which is objectively the worst love interest in the history of cinema. This man literally tells her to bake a cake for him and then stands her up after she makes it, and then hits her when she comes over to confront him about it, and also tells her to keep her mouth shut, but of course they end up together in the end. And back to her father's relationship, her father lies to her, he tries to take away her inheritance, and he literally kills her best friend for no reason. But of course, she forgives him in the end. What? I don't know about you, but I don't think that I could forgive my parents if they literally killed my best friend. And that goes back to one of the recurring themes I talked about earlier, where people just seem to forgive their family members even after they do horrendous things. So the relationships in this movie are very odd, to say the least, but I do think the plot is very interesting, and so I think this is still a good movie. I rank it number 9 on this list, and I would rewatch it 5 times.
This is the newest of the Westerns I picked. It's McCabe and Mrs. Miller.
This film is the most recent one that came out on this list, as it came out in 1971, and it is also the most unique, being directed by Robert Altman. The film follows John McCabe, a gambler and would-be businessman who arrives in a town with dreams of starting a brothel. He partners with Constance Miller, a savvy and opium-addicted madam with a sharp business mind. Together, they turn this brothel into a thriving enterprise. However, their success catches the attention of a powerful mining company which seeks to take over the town. When McCabe refuses to buy out their offer, he unknowingly sets off a deadly chain of events. I would say this film is the most grounded in reality of all the films on this list because there aren't as many Western tropes. It's very much a character study film about McCabe and Miss Miller. These characters are dirty. This town is dirty. The characters have very, very iffy morals. They are not stand-up guys. McCabe is no gun shooter. He's a flawed, self-deluded man trying to survive in a ruthless world. And this world is indeed ruthless. It's dirty and muddy and rainy and snowy. But for some reason, I want to be there. There's something comforting about this. There's something, I don't know how to explain it, but there's something about the way that Robert Altman shoots these scenes that just makes me kind of want to live in this crappy town. And that's just a testament to his filmmaking skills. There's something about the atmosphere here that feels comforting and unappealing at the same time. And this applies to the characters as well. This is a very interesting movie, but I do think the production quality hasn't quite aged well, specifically in the sound quality of the dialogue. I don't know what it is, but for some reason it seems like a switch was flipped on some movies in like the 60s or 70s where the audio quality just got worse than the ones in the 50s. I don't know if it's because they started placing the mics in different situations. You would expect the sound quality to get better, and it did for a lot of movies, but for some movies, I don't know what it is, but it just sounds very muffled, and this is one of those movies. And also, I do find the plot a little bit boring and slow, but the themes here are great, and the atmosphere is great, and the characters are great. So that's why I rank this film number 7 on this list, and I would rewatch it 5 times.
This is a great box set.
Okay, first of all, I have to get something off of my chest, and that is, I am sick and tired of people in the Criterion closet recommending box sets, because that is way too many films for me to have to watch for this channel. But you know what? It's fine in this case because I watched all 5 of these movies, and I really enjoyed all of them. The Renown Collection is a set of Western movies from the 50s directed by Bud Bedecker, and starring Randolph Scott, like as in they all star Randolph Scott. Watching these films was fascinating because I don't think that I know of any example of a director directing 5 low-budget films with the same lead actor in the same genre over the course of only 3 or 4 years. And yes, that's the case with these movies, and that means that they are very similar movies. 3 of them, in fact, take place in the same location, the Alabama Hills near Lone Pine, California, and 2 of them are basically the same movie. But let's start with The Tall T. The Tall T is probably the most critically acclaimed movie on this list, and I'll just say I don't quite get it. It feels more like an extended TV show, like a really good episode of Bonanza, and not quite like a critically acclaimed movie for me. I rank it number 10, and I would rewatch it 3 times. Decision at Sundown is probably the most boring to me. They're literally trapped in a house for like half of the movie, but I still think it's a good movie and worth the watch. I rank it number 11, and I would rewatch it 2 times. Buchanan Rides Alone was great in my opinion. It had a great plot, it had a great cast of characters, and there is a shootout scene at the end that is very creative and interesting. I don't know why this one's not more critically acclaimed than it is. I rank this number 4, and I would rewatch it 10 times. Next we have Ride Lonesome. I think this is the best one on the list. I think the plot is great. I think the characters are great. I think the way that the plot is revealed slowly, like a trickling of plot throughout the movie, is very great. I think the side characters are great. I think this is a really good Western. That's why I rank this number 3 on this list, and I would rewatch this 12 times. Finally, we have Commanche Station, and I think this movie is kind of almost the same as Ride Lonesome, but I think it's worse. There is a lot of similarity in the plot, and they use almost the exact same locations. And so for that reason, when I watched this, I felt like I was just watching the same movie as Ride Lonesome. So I rank this number 12 on this list, and I would watch it 1 more time.
The original 310 to Yuma.
Finally, there is only 1 spot left, and that movie is 310 to Yuma, like the original one, not the one that came out in the early 2000s. If I'm being honest, I thought this was a near perfectly crafted film. The characters, the plot, the music, the tension all work together to create a masterpiece of a Western, and the themes of inadequate masculinity makes for a timeless film that can be watched far into the future. Oh, and Glenn Ford plays one of the best villain roles that I have ever seen. He's almost a devil-like character. But if you haven't seen this film, I'm not going to give away anything else about it. Go watch it. So there it is, my subjective ranking of all of Viggo Mortensen's Criterion Closet picks. I think they were, quite frankly, all pretty good, and some of them were absolutely great. So in the comments, let me know whose Criterion picks you want me to rank next, and please like and subscribe and all that stuff, and I'll see you next time.